Excuse me, could you point me in the direction of Ys? Nah, mate, this isn't Greece. No, I'm looking for Ys, the magical kingdom under the sea. Nah, these are swans, not geese. Welcome in, builders. This week we are taking a look at middle-aged Ys. Very, very cool nation, known for their incredibly powerful sacreds and some very distinct weaknesses. It's kind of a tale of two nations almost, where on one hand, we are a water nation that sucks underwater, but is incredibly powerful on land, but also is incredibly limited on where we want to expand up there. So let's take a look and see what Ys, the Morgen Queens, has going on. Caer Ys was a Tuatha city of unrivaled splendor. Its walls of crystal and bronze rose above the shores of Cairnú, a former Morvarc'h province conquered by the Tuatha of Tir na Nog. Through trade and sorcery, it became a city of marvels inhabited by Tuatha, humans, and Merrow, a race of mermen that lived under the seas near Tir na Nog and Cairnú. With the fall of Tir na Nog, Dahut, a mighty Tuatha sorceress and queen of the city, hid Caer Ys beneath the waves, creating a refuge for the sorceresses of Tir na Nog, and the city became inhabited by Tuatha and their Merrow allies. Living in the enchanted city underneath the waves transformed the Tuatha, and they have turned into Morgen, a superior race of semi-divine beings who are to the Merrow what the Tuatha were to men. Ys is an underwater queendom ruled by the Morgen. Humans of Cairnú ancestry comprise most of the coastal population. So here we go. These are the survivors of Tir na Nog and some of the descendants of Morvarc'h and their magical girl allies. Let's see what the national features have to say about them. This is a kingdom with race of both humans on land and Merrow under the waves, with the Morgen sorceresses as their ruling class. For military, we have Merrow and human infantry and cavalry, and we have sacred Morgen elite units. All but the humans are amphibious. Magic-wise, we are pretty strong in glamour and water, and we have some earth and a bit of astral nature and fire. Our priests are average, meaning we can recruit priest level 2s. For scales and blesses, we have a luck limit of +1 and a magic limit of +1. It's a shame that we really can't afford to take turmoil, because T2, luck 3, magic 3 would be quite a fun build, but I don't think we could actually get enough troops out to stay viable with that. For buildings, we have standard forts of the age, and we can build underwater, which is always nice. For sites, we only have one site, which is Caer Ys. This has a water, 2 earth, 2 glamour, and allows us to get all of our cap-only units. Do note, these are a lot of our best things, and they're cap-only, so already that's a bit of a yikes coming from me. Units and sacreds. For our lineup, we have a tale of maybe 3 nations. We have the garbage water units, we have the incredible unit, and we have the okay land units. Let's take a look and see what's going on here. Starting us off, we have Ysian Militia. This is a Merlot chassis. Merlot are slightly better than humans, slightly worse than humans. Just, they're okay. They have a little more HP, a little more strength. Baseline, they're not quite as skilled, although this is a militia we are looking at here. They are amphibians, and they have dark vision 50. Not the worst thing ever, and you don't really pay any premium here. Stat-wise, that's pretty good for dark vision, amphibian, some extra HP, some extra strength. That's not terrible. As with most militia, I would never get this unit, but he's okay. At least it's 15 strength, or 15 damage on the spear, so he's almost at that golden 16 that we would like to see. Next up, we have the Ysian Spearman. This boyo has a turtle shield in addition to his bronze spear. Again, we can see the nice HP, nice strength. With a little bit of training, he's now up to 9 attack, 12 defense on this guy. Again, not particularly useful in my opinion. Next up, we have the Ysian Infantry. Now we're actually getting towards something that's vaguely useful. 14 protection, because we now have a bronze cuirass, a turtle shell shield, and a bronze cap. Even the Merlot are smart enough to put on hats. A couple nations recently could take some lessons here. This guy is fine. Do note that we have up to 19 resources. We're paying a lot for that bronze gear. So we are at about a 2-to-1 resource to recruitment point need to get these troops. But the gold cost is fine. The recruitment isn't bad. They're okay. Next up, we have our heaviest, the Yesian Man-at-Arms. This one has the bronze hauberk, turtle shield, and bronze cap, along with the bronze spear. So protection-wise, on average, we're at 17. That's 18 on the body and 16 on the head. That's actually pretty decent. That is middle-age gear, essentially. And he's actually been hitting the gym a little bit, eating that protein. And he's up to 13 strength. So now we're doing 16 piercing damage with that spear. We're not particularly great with it, but that is that golden standard for me of 16 damage in middle age. So we at least have a chance of fighting standard heavy infantry in grind combat. And this would be our best of the stand and grind troops for just holding a line. Note, this is a bit of a premium here, though. 15 gold, 23 resources, 15 recruitment points. That's pretty pricey, and they're not stellar. Like, this is not an elite troop. This is just a heavy line troop, but it's usable. That's fine. Look for building forts, and do note you only get these in underwater forts that have enough resources to support the recruitment. Next up, we have the Knight of Ys. This is an okay unit. Do note right away, we are amphibious, as is our Kelpie, so we are not a trash tier unit that is amphibious. 35 gold, 24 resources, 33 recruitment points. That's a bit of a pricey unit. 16 HP, 13 strength on the rider. We have an actual lance here. We're wearing the bronze hauberk, the bronze cap, and the shield, so we have that same. This is the heavy infantry we just looked at, but now he is mounted. The Kelpie itself, unfortunately, is unarmored, kind of making this unit unusable, in my opinion. A few of these for, like, hold and attack rear would be okay, especially underwater, where you're not going to really have range units shooting at you. But we could do better. We can do better. Let's actually hit this unit. This is our sacred. This is the Morvarc'h Knight, cap only. And this is the unit that basically makes the nation. First glance, you're like, okay, let's see what is Babel so entranced with here? Okay, a golden lance. That's nice. It's always good to have magic weapons. Not having to pay for that's great. And it is a lance, and it's a magic piece of gear. So that's actually, I guess you're not technically magical, but that's fine. It's a good piece of gear here. Definitely can do some work. Okay, what about armor? Like, is that so good? Okay, the same bronze hauberk we've been looking at. We have a golden shield. Now, this is a magic piece of gear. 23 protection on that. It's very nice. It has good parry chance. Encumbrance isn't actually that bad. And the same bronze cap we've been looking at. Okay, so it's kind of a decently protected unit with a lance. That's fine. What about the thing they're riding? Okay, well, the Morvarc'h is an okay unit. Has glamour. That's always nice. Has some fire resistance. Okay. It is sacred. Has the dark vision. Okay, it's got a tail flipper. So what? So what happens when we get those boyos on land? When we get them on land, we transform into a very angry horse. This horse has a hoof attack and a fiery breath. The fiery breath is fire magic damage of 6, and it's AoE 1. That is amazing. It costs 1 fatigue. You will literally AoE things to death with these. You can fit 2 of these into a square. So every round, you can have a lance hit going out, and a hoof, and a fiery breath from each one of your knights. Also, they have bronze barding, which is heavy, but 20 head protection, 17 body protection. This is up there with some of the best barding that we have seen so far. An amazing unit, an absolutely amazing unit. We're very, very happy with those. Beyond that, the repelling is actually pretty good. 15 attack out of the box is pretty good for repels. I think if you wanted to go for some extra repel type things in your bless, that would not be terrible. We do have a second summon that we can do that is sacred. It is essentially the Kelpie or the Morvarc'h here without a rider. So the repels are type blesses would be less useful for them. However, this unit is so ridiculously good, it would be worth just building a bless for them. Do note though, very pricey. 115 gold, 58 resources, 56 recruitment points. These are amazing, and you pay for that elite price. In the early game especially, it's really hard to get more than maybe 2 of these, 3 of these out. And you're going to be very incentivized to try to conquer all your nearby water provinces because we can't pull resources down from the land. And that can be a bit of a pain. In this game here, I had 3 water provinces surrounding me, one of which was really difficult to take. So for quite a while in the early game, I was limited to 2 provinces, which essentially let me get my leadership and 3 sacreds instead of the 5 I could have been getting. That was a bit of a pain point for me. Yeah, resources are super duper important. I think this basically guarantees that you need to go production 2. Sadly, spoiler, we don't have a production Titan. I would even be willing to maybe take a Titan chassis. I know. If I could get somebody with some extra production just to get more of these knights out. I think rapidly, even if you were to start with higher Dominion, you're just not going to be able to afford these prices, unfortunately. Very, very good unit. You can do expansion parties with these with a pretty minor bless. I've done it as low as a leader that can bless and 5 knights. You could definitely do that, especially in the easier provinces. Very, very high quality unit. Trait-wise, our Morvarc'h knights have amphibious, they have glamour, they have iron vulnerability, sailing, dark vision, and skilled rider. The sailing is kind of a weird one. You can actually get some really far movement out of that compared to your amphibious movement, depending on what you're doing. So that's pretty handy. And the horse itself also has fire resistance and smart mount. Overall, absolutely incredible unit. Next up, we have coastal recruit humans. Do note I said coastal. You cannot get these in forts that are deeper inland. So we are pretty incentivized to stay near the coast. What do you get? Well, we have the Kearnu Warrior. Very similar, if not the exact same guy from EA Morvarc'h. Luckily, in EA, these guys were decent. And they still are here. No tattoos or anything. We've lost that magic. We have a broadsword with 11 attack, 16 slashing damage. That's serviceable. And we have a javelin. It's okay. Javelins are kind of whatever. They don't hit hard enough against armored troops in middle age, but against barbarians or whatever, that's totally fine. Nice to thin out the herd before they get to you. Armor-wise, we have the chainmail cuirass, an iron cap, and a shield. Do note, no special traits or anything. This is a human chassis. They're fine. They're usable. I mean, I don't say that as an insult. And frankly, they're probably better than the Merlot above water. I don't know. A little bit better attack. I think having maybe the Merlot in your middle to hold, and then these guys kind of as your sides of your front line to kind of try to wrap around and do some damage, throw those javelins in. I think that's probably the way to go if you're doing land fighting. Next up, we have the Kearnu Noble Warrior. He is slightly better, so he went up to 12 attack, 17 slashing damage for his extra strength there. Otherwise, same unit. He traded out the javelins for just some extra training time. Note 11 morale versus 10 morale, so that can be pertinent. If we look here, that's also 11, so keeps you equal to your better troops under seas. This is a fine unit. Bit pricey, 12 gold, 21 resources, 14 recruitment points, but fine. I think if you don't care about the javelins, I think these are probably better. Finally, we have the Kearnu Cavalry. They don't hold a candle to our sacreds, unfortunately, but at least they have some leather barding, which is better than our amphibious cavalry that is unarmored. I would generally not be getting these guys. I could see having some, but I would rather just get the land troops and then supplement that army with a few knights, and that will be plenty of flanking killing power, in my opinion. As a unit, though, I mean, these are fine. There's nothing wrong. This is a really light cav. It's fine. It's fine. That's all I really have to say about that one. Heroes, Commanders, and Prophet. For heroes, we have 2. We have the Queen of the North. Queen of the North comes in with 3 fire, 2 water, 2 earth, 3 glamour, 2 priest levels. Very good. It's basically the standard traits of our knights, with an addition of a little bit of fire resist here. Pretty darn nice. Do note, full magic gear, golden helmet, golden armor, golden shield. I would definitely thug this one out or use this in your armies to cast some big spells. This is kind of the highest fire that we have, so our line troops would really appreciate the attack morale buffs. I don't know if we waste a mage's time on that. We also have the fire and glamour cross-pathing, so we can actually buff awe onto troops, which is pretty darn powerful. Our second one is the Morgen Queen. Similar-ish. Fire 1, water 3, earth 2, glamour 4, priest level 2. Basically the same traits, but cold resistance instead of fire. Again, just a really cool unit, very usable. Big glamour magic could be cast here. Very fine heroes. I think you'll be happy to get them. As usual, I wish we had a multi-recruit hero. I do love those. Commander-wise, we have a small but okay lineup. We have a Essian Scout. This is the Merlot chassis. Note, he is 5 more gold than a regular Scout, but you get Amphibian, you get Sailing, and you get Dark Vision. I guess the Dark Vision doesn't really matter. So that's fine. I'll pay 5 gold for that. You could just scout everything, and the Sailing makes you able to get really mobile if you get the opportunity to actually use it. Next up, we have a Essian Commander. These guys are pretty mid. They're wearing the heavier gear. However, they only have 75 leadership. Very, very sad about that. They're fine. 23 resources is a bit pricey. They can be hard to get out when you have your capital and you're trying to get your sacreds out because those are so bloody expensive. Now, beyond that, they're usable. I generally don't get a lot of these guys. I'd prefer to get the cavalry leaders. Speaking of the cavalry leaders, we have the Knight Commander of Ys. Even though this is an unarmored unit, what I like about getting these is they can ferry around my sacreds if I need to reinforce one of my expansion parties at a much better speed than a Merlot commander could do. They're also just more map mobile, and just as a cavalry unit, they are just a little sturdier. They have the same protection, but they have the added benefit of the horse could take some hits for you. So I do prefer these. Also note, 100 leadership. So now we can actually get into formations. They're fine as mundane leaders. Next, we have a Essian Druid. Essian Druid is all right. He has 11 research ability for 92 gold. So he is efficient. Comes in, however, with Water 1, Earth 1, Priest 1, and then a random 100% of Water, Earth, Astral, Nature. So a very wide mage and not really high enough in anything to do much. So I get these guys as mainly researchers, and then later on, depending on their path, maybe if you're desperate, they could come help do some combat, but they're really not particularly good combat mages, which is unfortunate. If only they were guaranteed like Earth 2 or Water 2, they would be a lot better. And do note, they are kind of pricey up front because of that wide pathing. 230 for a research mage is expensive. Luckily, like I said, they are sacred, so that halves their upkeep. Otherwise, at 180 gold a year, these would be garbage. Next up, we have the Morgan Champion, a cap-only unit. This is the lighter of our cav leaders. Comes in with Water 1, Glamour 1, Priest 1. 9 research, which is terrible for her 134 upkeep. These are going to be probably what you're leading expansion parties of Morvarc'h Knights on. One of these plus 5 to maybe 8 Knights can do fine expansion. Absolutely fine. The only iffy thing is sometimes your bless doesn't hit everybody, and you really would prefer that it did. You're going to have a good bless on these guys because their sacreds are just that good. And so missing out on your bless is a bit of a pain, frankly. They do have that nice golden shield. They do have that magic weapon. Same things as our other sacreds have. Same mount. It does have the hoof and fire attack above water. Very, very good. Also, only 2 recruitment points, so they're not slow to recruit. And as Geese, we actually start with a Citadel as our capital. So we have 3 commander points to get. So you could get one of these in a scout, or we could get one of these in half of a researcher, etc., etc. Pretty darn nice. These are probably okay to thug with if you wanted a cheap thug, but our next one would be better, but it's also slow to recruit. So checks and balances on that, I guess. This is the Morgen Princess. This is our better cavalry reader. However, immediately note, this is 4 recruitment points. So it is slow to recruit even with our 3 recruitment points that we have from our capital. 515 gold is nothing to shake a stick at, and 56 resources is expensive, but you come in with Glamour 2, which opens up a lot more buffing, and Priest level 2, which is just easier to get your blesses out on things, and it opens up Sermon of Courage if that's important to you. Otherwise, pretty standard traits here. Did I mention on the last one? They are spell singers. Spell singers half the fatigue of what they're casting, and they add 50% spell casting time. Now note, it doesn't multiply the entire cast time by 50%, it just adds 50%. So if it was a 100% spell, that's a 150. If it was a 200% spell, that's a 250. Overall, I do like spell singers. I do think they're worthwhile. Even with that little bit of slowdown, it's just something you have to be aware of if timing is important in what you're trying to do, like buffing, say. Back to the princess here. Good pathing. We can do lots of self buffs. Do note we don't have a lot of the great thug paths, though. We can't give ourselves fear. We can't give ourselves fire shields or protection. So you're going to be relying on either items or you're blessed to do that. If we look at protection, 0 natural protection. I do think this might be a unit that would really like a barkskin amulet, weirdly enough, because that would give her some natural protection, which would stack in nicely there. It also applies to your mount, which is rather nice. Overall, I do like these. I do get these. They also can cast one of our national spells, which is pretty valuable. The other things that could cast it are even more expensive, so food for thought there. Finally, for the cap onlys, we have the Morgen Sorceress. This is our final cap only. It is slow to recruit. 585 gold, 1 resource. What do you get? You get Water 2, Earth 1, Glamour 3, Priest level 2, and a random 110% of Fire, Water, Earth, Glamour. So we could get Glamour 4, we could get Earth 2, we could get Water 3, we could get Fire 1 in there. So some acid spells, Robe of the Sea, Glamour boosters, nice and easy to do stuff. If we get the Earth 2, we could do Rust Mist. None of our undersea stuff has iron, although some of our land troops do. But Rust Mist can be pretty nice for certain fights. Beyond that, perfectly fine. We could put up Twilight, we could put up Nightfall. Note we have the Dark Vision. So we have Dark Vision 50 or 100 on everybody under the water, not our humans. So getting darkness can be pretty valuable for us. Overall, pretty darn good. I do think these are thuggy enough, depending on your blessing and your gear. They could go out and do some thug expansion or just thug rating for you. Giving them, say, a barkskin amulet and a ring of regen would make them very, very, very good. Or maybe a bracer of protection, or maybe a burning pearl, because that would up her golden lance attack to 20, making her a repel machine. She's already got a good shield, but a charcoal shield would give her fire shield, which is very, very good on these types of thugs. She doesn't really have a great AoE way to take things out. You could give yourself Breath of Winter. That is a cold aura buff. So that is one way that you might be able to kill things. Do note that she at least does have the fire AoE breath on the mount. So another way to AoE attack out. Going on land now, we have the Swan Herd. Unfortunately for the Swan Herd, man, if only the swans were sacred. This would be such a great meme build. 50 gold, 1 resource, 1 recruitment. This is a coastal recruit. They are sacred themselves. They have animal awe. They're not inspiring. They have Beastmaster +3 and they summon allies. What allies do you get? You get every round 2 swans. 6 HP, 6 strength, size 2. They have an attack, a wing buff for 6 damage. I mean, frankly, if you've ever been around swans, I think they should have a bite attack. They are flying, they are animals that are undisciplined, and they're bad at patrolling. These are kind of a meme. Maybe if you could grab a couple swan herders really early, you could save up enough of these for like one big distraction attack. Maybe. I guess a swan herder also could build temples. So getting one of these guys to go build your temples, and then when he's not doing that, he could summon in some swans. They're fine. I mean, weirdly enough, they also have a sling. I don't know. They're fine. I do wish the swans were sacred. How cool would that have been? Next up, we have the Kirnu Chieftain. Again, coastal recruit only. 75 leadership is unfortunate. He does have inspirational. Generally speaking, I'm only going to get this guy to build forts and maybe move some troops around. You really do want formations with all the land troops, and he just can't do it for you, unfortunately. Finally, we have the Kirnu Druid. Pretty good, and one of the things that helps us pass the early/mid game, because we can communion up and do Big Earth or do Gifts from the Heavens. They are pricey, 230 gold, not slow to recruit, coastal only. They are 92 gold per year for upkeep and 11 research. I do think these are better than our Merlot Druids because they're actually more combat viable. Like every one of these guys could do something. They could give themselves either Light of the Northern Star or Spears of Power, and that gets them up to at least 2 Astral so they could Mind Burn, or that you could get yourself up to 2 Earth, and then you could summon Earth Power. You're up to 3, and now you can actually do Earth stuff, or you could hop into Little Communions and do Astral or Earth stuff. Very, very nice, pretty versatile, a bit on the pricey side. But yeah, you're definitely going to want these. And if we look at my coastal fort here, look at my recruits, ignore the Amazons I got. Your choices are a chieftain, a swan herder, or the druid. So you're going to get druids because there's nothing else really worthwhile here. Side note, Amazons are really cool when you're making cab blesses. Just food for thought there. Who would I make my prophet if I could click the right button? For me, I think my prophet is probably going to start out as a Knight Commander of Ys. This is the cheapest cavalry I can get. If it dies, I do think I would probably move up to a Morgan Champion because this guy has an unarmored Kelpie as his mount. I would say it would be worth your time, I think, to give this a piece of barding if it is your prophet, just to help out with that mount problem. Beyond that, definitely not doing it on a princess or on a sorceress. They have too much other magic to be doing. You could get away on a Ysian commander. I wouldn't put it on a land-only iron-wielding guy. So I think you're looking at a Knight Commander or a Ysian commander or one of your Morgans for your prophet. Do note we can get Water 3, which also means that we have access to Bishop Fish. So we have native water income, we're underwater, and we can summon them in with relative ease. So it's not super duper important. There is several other things that we would like out of Conjuration, so it's likely that we'll have Bishop Fish to back us up there. As for national items, we have no national items. As for national spells, we have 2. From Thaumaturgy, at Thaumaturgy 3, we have Geas. This is a pretty good spell, actually. Range 25 requires 2 glamour. It affects 1 person with 100% precision, only 20 fatigue cost, which is pretty darn cheap, actually, especially because we do have some glamour 3s, or we could Twilight our glamour 2s up to 3s. If you get hit with this, it's magic. It's a difficult magic resistance negates, and you will attack anyone nearby. So you'll just start doing friendly fire, essentially. And you end it by passing a difficult morale check. So this is really hard to pass, and if you do, you get a curse. So actually a pretty good spell against elite-type troops. If somebody's spamming you with chaff, though, this isn't really going to do much, because if one chaff kills a second piece of chaff, who cares? But if you have a giant that starts killing other giants, that now is getting pretty interesting. Our second national spell is in Conjuration 4. Glamour 2, Water 1. So our lighter of the Morgan recruits can summon these in, and that is by far the most efficient person for it. Your other ones are just way more expensive. 12 Glamour isn't too bad for 10 of the Morvarc'h horses. This is actually pretty good. Let's take a look at them. You have to summon them underwater, I brought them on land so I could just show off the horse form. Underwater, they're the same as your sacred mounts, but they have a little higher defense because they're not barded. Do note that also means their protection is much worse. On land, this is what they look like. They are sacred amphibian with fire resistance. They have glamour, sailing, they are an animal, and they have dark vision. They have a hoof attack that they're pretty good with. This is fresh out of the box. 12 attack for 15 blunt is not bad. And they have their fiery breath. Remember, that is the AoE 1 weapon. These are really good. Their only big downside, I would say, is they only have 4 natural protection. Do note, I said animal, but I did not say undisciplined. And they have 13 magic resistance and 17 morale. This is a good unit. Hold attack rear, or hold and then attack closest just to pile them into kind of the middle of the map and use that AoE fire breath. These guys really, really are begging you for some protection. That is what they would really, really, really like. So bark skin would be fine here, although we don't have great access to nature. So you're probably going to be looking at doing some earth stuff. Totally worthwhile. Totally worthwhile. They actually would also benefit from some extra defense. If you could give them, say, blur, so the enemy would have a -2 to attack. That'd be the equivalent of 14 defense. That makes chaff units and low quality grind units unlikely to be able to hit them. And they do have 25 HP. So it's not like a single spear hit's likely to kill them. And they can keep breathing that fire. 2 of them fit into a square. You could enlarge these ones, but your sacreds are already size 5. So I would be very hesitant to lower the attack density of my sacred, so I probably wouldn't go large here. But these are good. 10 of them for 12 gems is a steal on these. We are very incentivized to get out there and get glamour searching. This is just so darn good. By the time I unlocked Conjuration 4, I was able to get off 4 casts of it. So I got 40 of these guys out as just my initial, the second I hit Conj 4. I think these could probably win you an early war. You just straight race for Conj 4. You summon out 30 to 40 to 50 of these, depending on how your site searching went. And you just burn somebody down. Pick a target that can be AoE'd easily with these guys and get all your knights in there with these guys supporting them. I think you're going to have a really good time. Beyond that, for magic, we are a water nation that has okay access to water, which immediately screams Voice of Tiamat. I do think I would race directly to Conj 5 for that, and that takes us within striking distance of our Bishop Fish. This also gets us summon fire power, summon earth power, and phoenix power, so fire, earth, and water boosters are all good. We have various things we could summon throughout here, all the usual suspects. Nobody really stands out. I will say that the fire jellies are one that we don't see too often. You're unlikely to be able to do this easily, but these are pretty good. For 6 fire gems, you get 10 plus of them, and these are pretty nasty underwater. They have a burn poison that's pretty spooky. And we are really bad at fighting underwater, weirdly enough. We don't have enough water magic to easily be able to spam water elementals. And that could be a big problem if you're fighting a better water nation, which I would put us at kind of the lower end of the water nation scale. Where we are really succeed is getting on land and using those fire-breathing sacreds to just dominate the coasts. So that is a little bit of a food for thought on that one. In alteration, I think we're looking for the protection buffs. We are looking for the quickness stuff. Quickness is a great buff. If we could buff any of our fire breathers, they could breathe fire twice per round. And remember, it only costs them 1 fatigue for that attack. It's very cheap. I think getting bigger and bigger quickness is worthwhile. And the fire breath is not tied to your strength, which means liquid body minus strength doesn't actually matter on them. And it gives you wound fend, and it gives you the resistance to slash blunt pierce. This is a really good buff for the unmounted Morvarc'hs. The very, very nice buff. One I always talk about, but I don't use a ton. I do think it'd be worthwhile here. Getting them with, let's say, like an earth protection buff and quickness and liquid body, those would be absolute terrors on the battlefield. Beyond that, we also have Twilight at 4, and Nightfall, so we can go all the way to darkness if we so wish to. The earth buffs are kind of whatever. We can get people who can manifest vitriol. These bring in those ethereal green lions that have the acid attacks. Those are really good troops and gives us a dump for water gems. Very nice. I would strongly consider these. They would fit in well with the other troop types that we have. Beyond those, yeah, here's quickening for some AoE. We can easily cast this. AoE 9 plus quickness. We would absolutely love that. Also liquefy. This is a 999 damage attack. If you do luck into a water 3, underwater, they can water power up, or they could put on a robe and they could cast liquefy. No gem requirement. Does cost 20 fatigue, so not that bad. And it's AoE 3. You literally can just melt fools with this spell. Very, very nice. And again, one we don't see a ton of. Also, it cripples. So there you go. If somehow they survive 999 damage, they'll be crippled. Beyond those, that's probably it. Yeah. Moving up to evocation. I don't think we're huge on evocations. The evocations we want to do are really going to probably be a little bit of acid. The water stuff we're not great at. We kind of want to go heat scales because we do fire stuff. So we're mainly looking at the glamour. Ephemeral Bolt is really nice. Dance of Ephemeral Swords is a really good buff for your thugs. If you do go that route, remember they have 2 glamour, 1 water. This just gives you some extra damage going out. Kind of helps replace missing the fire shield. Beyond those, of course, we have Illusionary Army. I do think these are really good. We do not have good line holding troops, or at least they're very mediocre. I think it would totally be worthwhile to have a few of the Morgans with a glamour temp gem item and just have them all spam one of these out at the beginning of combat. Let's say you had like 4 of them and you could dump out 80 illusionary warriors just to keep them enemy busy while your Morvarc'h knights go and actually do the real work. I think that's very, very nice. You could actually get Project Self on some of your Morgan sorceresses. This is interesting. It's a little hard to use. We did do that recently because you can't use gems. So that's unfortunate, but that's fine. I mean, you could go in there and spam some ephemeral bolts or something, or ephemeral blasts. That could be pretty darn nasty, and you're not risking yourself while doing it. Beyond those, Cleansing Water gives us a nice anti-undead spell. Moving on, construction, glamour boosters, water boosters. We can't do earth easily natively, but earth boots are really nice for us. We do have access to clam pearl or pearl of clams, clam pearls, whatever, the temp astral gem item. We have access to the temp glamour item. Do note the glamour research item isn't great for us because our only glamour people are very expensive cap only mages. I don't think we're interested in that. We don't have death. We don't have high nature. We don't have air. So we really don't have access to the research boosters, which is really unfortunate. We would really, really like those. So maybe consider adding one of the paths that would allow you to make boosters to your pretender. Maybe it would be worth your pretender's time to make some. Just depends on that. We also like to do thugs, and Construction 5 will get us most of the thug gear we would be interested in. In enchantment, Strength of Giants would help out our line troops pretty decently. If you do have the fire shield on certain units can be rather nice. The weapons of sharpness or shatter hammers would be pretty good. Astral shield is really nice if you do have somebody that's thugging with some astral. Going up to thaumaturgy, again, we have our national spell here. In addition, we have the attack buffs if you do luck into some fire 2 stuff. This also is the astral. We're going to want at least 1 for communions. And if you're going to go 1, you might as well go 2 and get mind burn just for a option of a spammable spell for some of your communion people. Luck buffs are nice. Despair does give us some fear effects that we could toss out. That could be pretty handy. Slumber, you can put people to sleep. Visions of Death, another spell you don't see a ton of people using. This is I mean, it's not quite Soul Slay, but it's basically Soul Slay. It gives you 25 plus damage. That is a armor negating, false damage, magic resistance negates. That's pretty spooky. Not expensive and very accurate. I do think that's a nice spell. One I should probably use more. Group Luck, again, just really nice. Save some of your units that otherwise would, generally speaking, kind of die to a single hit. So this is pretty spammable for us quite easily. We could get Mind Mirror. It's kind of whatever. Charm is on the table. Mass Confusion is on the table for us. Battle Fortune. This is a Glamour 3 under Twilight is already 4. Easily castable. A Glamour 3 also can spend 3 gems and cast it. This gives you AoE 20 plus luck buff. Very, very nice. I do think that could be valuable in the late game. And that's pretty much our spells. Not a huge attack spell type nation. We are more of a buffing / illusion type army. Pretty good magic access if it's a little bit different. Do remember also, we might go up and start spamming Gifts from Heaven on our land units. If you were going to do this, maybe you could try to get them all off really early in the fight so you don't chance hitting your expensive, very, very rare knights with a Gift of Heaven. You would be very sad if that happens. Okay, let's bring all of that together. Ys is a underwater nation that doesn't really want to stay underwater. We need a lot of resources in our capital to get our really powerful cap-only units, especially our sacreds and our casters, go figure, and use those to dominate the land. Even Slowpoke Babel, on turn 13, I had 15 provinces, and I started off being too conservative in my expansion. I was trying for like 8 to 10 knights. I think 5 to 8 is perfectly fine for expansion parties. You do want to be a little bit careful what you expand into. But other than the odd lucky hit, the only thing that actually killed any of my knights really was a pretty hefty heavy cav province that had like 10 heavy knights, and I only had like 6 to 8 of mine. And I did lose a few in that. But other than that, other than a lucky hit here and there, I've only lost maybe 3 or 4 knights. At this point, I'm on turn 22 in this game. Very nice. In this one, I was able to get 2 underwater provinces, but I couldn't quite do this one. It had a huge pile of Amber Clan, and it was kind of painful when I did take it. So I got on land relatively early and started in on some of those research guys. You know, look at some of these lucky boys that what they summoned in with. So pretty darn nice there. Lots of coastal forts here, here, here. I'm building one here. I'm building one over here. Note, I haven't even bothered underwater because if you look at this, for non-cap units, what do you get? The Merlots and the Junkie Knights and the Knight Commander and the Druid. Pretty bad. I would get around to it. I had plans to fort this, but just circumstances stopped me. I also have a throne underwater that I need to fort. So it's nice to have. It will give me income. It will make my throne safe. It's just not a priority. Land is our priority. And once we are up and running, we actually have some okay troops we can use here. I would again call out Amazons or anything that gives you sacreds, aka Amazons, are pretty nice because we're probably going to have a pretty good blessing on our knight. So definitely would like to take advantage of that if we can. Let's go ahead and take a look at pretenders. For pretender chassis choices, we have a pretty bad choice. This is very inherent of water nations. Very unfortunate here. In Dom 1, we have the Archmage. He is aquatic only. In my book, that's disqualifying for him. I would rather pay 1 more point for a Grand Hydromancer who is amphibious and gives me a water gem at least. I still would not get this guy though because he has 100 points, and for 110 I could get a Morgan High Queen. Water 1, Glamour 1 is pretty okay. It doesn't really diversify us, but it's only 10 points to add an extra path to this, and she comes in with Spell Singer, which is nice. Going up to Dom 2, Master Lich, Ghost King, I'm not the biggest fan of those. Earth Serpent, I don't think we need an Expander God. We'll have a couple rough turns at the very, very beginning of the game, but once we get rolling, we are going to be expanding with small parties of pretty elite sacreds, and he's not going to bring in a bless that's particularly good for us. Aquatic, 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 those are all out. Hooded Spirit is a Trinity. I do have a soft spot for Trinities, and this would be a good researcher, despite the fact of how bad they tried to make them not good researchers. They tend to be. If you were going to go really heavy scales, that's maybe another option. Growth 3, Luck 3, Magic 3 would be pretty good, but that's very expensive. You're probably cutting into a lot of blessing in that case, which is iffy to me. If you do insist on an expander, I do like the Worm. I do think the Worm is very playable. Do note on this nation, though, we're probably going Heat. So he likes to buff Cold. He's not cold-blooded, and he does Breath of Winter as part of his super combatant kit. So a little iffy there, but he's totally usable. I prefer him over the Earth Snake for sure. Although, again, what's he going to bring in for a bless? Hard Skin. He'll go Hard Skin, and he'll have like 2 nature so that he can probably buff himself with higher regen. Yeah, not a very good bless. Our Demi-Lich, post-nerf, not nearly as good as he used to be. And Nereid, again, aquatic only. Or aquatic. Of these, the only one that really would possibly interest me would be the Father of Monsters, because he has the fire natively, but I could just do it down here. None of these do it. I do wish we had a god with production scale. I would be very interested in that. Or if we had a cheaper person with Inspiring Researcher. I don't think a 280 point Inspiring Researcher would be worthwhile. I guess you could start him off as asleep, and then at the end of year 1 he comes out, but I don't know about that. I don't know about that. He also has a magic scale limit that doesn't help us at all. It doesn't stack with our national feature, and he doesn't bring any new variety. So unless I wanted an Astral Bless of some kind, I think he's definitely out. Going up to Dom 4s, the Monolith would be fine. We could do something like Regeneration, I suppose, and then just go cheap, maybe just Regeneration Bless, and then get the extra points from the other 2. We could make some Astral boosters. Father of the Sea, he is literally aquatic only. He is not allowed to leave the sea. So I don't think he would be worthwhile. He also has new path cost 80. That sucks. I really wish this was like, I wish it was like 20, but I could maybe live at 40, but 2 scales to add a single second path. Ugh. A Statue of Order, we would like some extra recruitment points, but it's not really required. Our resources are probably going to be our limiting factor mostly. Yeah, it's fine. I don't think I'm going to get Order 3 on this nation, though, so you're paying for something you're not going to use. I'm not in love with that. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the ones I built here. Got a copy. I hope that's the right one I just deleted. First up, we have Kieran. You do note these are all the same chassis. I think Morgan High Queen is the best chassis we have, by far. The first one we're looking at here is a Dormant that has Quickness. Quickness is a really good buff for our Sacreds. Not really so much for the mounted unit, although we do have benefits there, but for the Fire Breath. 2 Fire Breaths per round is devastating. In addition, Quickness gives us +2 attack and +2 defense. That helps us with our repels on our Sacred Knights. So they basically repel and keep your horse safe while your horse breathes fire on everybody. This is not bad. It also would be good on a Thug, although your Thugs could just self-bluff Quickness. So while I think this is viable and usable, I'm not in love with it. Also, the scales are kind of mid. Again, I'm not in love with it. We can buff Quickness. We can do other things. Next up, I had Hot-Blooded Hottie. She had Fire Shield. She's still dormant. She has the same scales, and I went with Blood Surge. Blood Surge. In fact, I actually noticed that this version has 2 extra points, so we could add probably defense skill on this trait. When they swing at us and miss, they still take Fire Shield. But Blood Surge. Blood Surge is really good for us. You are likely to get a kill with your lance hit, and that gets it rolling for your rider. That gives her 3 extra attack for more repels. The strength just helps her keep killing people. The defense helps her not get hit, and the reinvig keeps her from tiring out. But for our horses, this makes them really, really good at their fire breath with that extra reinvigoration. They don't really need the attack for that, but that does help with their hoof, and it makes their hoof hit harder with the extra strength. And the defense helps keep them safe. I think Blood Surge is really, really good here. A lot of mounted sacreds kind of struggle for their mount to be able to trigger Blood Surge now that the rider and mount have been separated in Dom 6, but we do not have that problem. Both our rider and our mount are equally good at killing things, so Blood Surge, big, big bonus to me here. I do like the idea of Fire Shield, but the problems are, 1, it doesn't work underwater. 2, we can't get it until we become awake, so we're already into year 2, which it's still fine, but we're paying a big premium for something we're not getting use out of during arguably the most important time for our sacreds, which is expansion. And 3, this incentivizes people to go fire resist even more. They're probably going to take fire resist for your fire breath anyways, but this just really solidifies, hey, you need to take fire resist to stop me. So, bit of a weakness there. I do think this is a totally good, viable build, though. And I could be convinced to play this. I do like it quite a bit. Next up, we have the real Sleeping Beauty. Again, this one is imprisoned, something I don't do a ton of. And we're going with just a nice light, well, a medium bless here. We have Fire Resist, Shock Resist, Cold Resist, just 5 points of each. We have Enchanted Blood and Blood Surge. I think this is really, really good. I did not have a ton of attrition on my sacreds, so getting that extra 0.5 heal will just keep them nice and safe. Between the high defense, the glamour, and the repels, just that odd hit that you get, this will keep you safe and ups the magic resistance. Not really a weakness for us, but that's fine. And remember, it also stops bleeding. On that off chance that you get hit with a bleed, it's nice not to have an expensive sacred die to it. Blood Surge, again, I think Blood Surge is high value on these sacreds because our mount gets so much use out of them, and it's still good for the rider. And I had 1 point left over, so Heroism. Heroism's actually a bit of a sneaky thing here. Not only is it nice for your sacreds to get plus attack, plus defense, plus morale, plus fatigue recovery, all of which are incredible for our sacreds, it also means that our researchers will level up earlier and they get +1 research. So not bad. I do like that a decent amount. I think this is just fine. I don't generally make these. Against the AI, resists are way less useful than they are against humans, but I do think this is a really good bless. I would totally play this, and I probably will play this on stream. The Fire Shield one's very cool, and the Fire Shield's really nice for your thugs, but you can mimic that with a Charcoal Shield if you really want that effect. And this is just so darn good. In addition, not only is this an okay bless or a decent bless, the scales here are a lot better. So we went up to 6 Dominion Strength. That's really important because when you're getting your sacreds, most of the things you want to recruit for leaders are also sacred. So if you're trying to get, let's say, 2 druids and some sacreds, that knocks off 2 of your Dominion points, and you can only get 4 sacreds, or less if you're lower Dominion. So this is kind of nice on that. It also helps our Dominion get out and spread. Not super important for us, but we do want to spread our good scales. Here I went with 2 production, 2 heat, and then 3 fortune and 3 magic. So I'm kind of counting on getting some benefit out of some good events. And this is going to lower people's magic resistance. Do note that the Enchanted Blood kind of counters that for our sacreds. Why do we care about that? A lot of the glamour stuff that is not just a straight illusion spell is a magic resistance negates. We also have people who can do astral spam stuff, another place where a lot of it's going to be magic resistance. So pretty nice there. I do like that quite a bit. I don't think this is a nation that particularly breaks into blood or anything, but yeah, this is pretty nice. The extra luck. Who knows what we'll get? Maybe we'll get some magic diversity. Getting some fire mages would be really nice. Anything that could get us research boosters. So if we luck into some air mages or some better nature mages or some spammable glamours that can actually take dreamstones. Any of that would be pretty darn good. Also, we're going to be searching for nature. So if we get lucky, maybe we could find some kelp forts and not have to build forts ourselves underwater. That could be pretty handy. So I like this bless quite a bit here. I do think you want to go pretty heavy for these sacreds. They're just that good. In conclusion, Ys is a nation that is incredibly powerful with their sacreds and good mages, but they're very locked into their capital in the early mid game. And then in the late game, they're really going to have to find a way to leverage their druids because you just are not going to have enough other mages. So you need to have a plan of what these guys are going to do. And they don't have a ton of options here, right? Like a little bit of water, a little bit of nature, but that's not going to be more than just a sprinkle into your communion. The nature does give you the option of maybe getting personal regen on your slaves. So that's kind of nice, at least. Gifts from Heaven is probably where these guys are going, but the Blessing of Earth stuff and astral stuff is good. Adding ethereal to our sacreds is pretty disgusting, or just ethereal to our line troops just to help them out a little bit. Between ethereal and getting some blur and maybe luck, we can actually make our front line pretty annoying to get through if you don't have magic. So that's something at least there. Underwater, be careful of other underwater nations. We are not the best underneath there. Our sacreds are still fine, but they don't have their fire breath, which is their main strength. They're still a good cav unit, but they are like multiple tiers below where they are on land. And beyond that, you have a heavy underwater troop that's really slow. That's not good. That's not good. And if you need to go water elementals, he's only water 1. Only water 1. We finally get higher water on a slow to recruit. So we are going to struggle against a foe who is dedicated to taking us out and rushes water elementals. I do think that is a bit of a worry for us. A big worry for us. So just be careful. It might even be worthwhile checking if you have decent underwater stuff. I hate aquatic, but like this is a case where maybe I need to recruit some Amber Clan. They have as much protection as my other guys. We could get some of those out. I didn't really look around much in this game, but definitely not naked Merlots. But if you find something decent, maybe you could get some other things out to help you fight underwater. Because even in this game, I was like, oh, Oceania? I don't know if I want to fight that. What I do want to fight is things on land and even underground. Because remember, we have dark vision on the units that really matter. So yeah, I even was expanding down here. That's kind of cool. I like that. So we are yet again another nation that can do sea, and we can fort thrones down there. We can do land, and we're good at doing land. And we can go underground without big problems. So pretty versatile in that regard. All right, builders, that's going to be it for Ys. If you liked the video, don't forget to leave a like on it. If you are not a current subscriber, I would love it if this was the video that earned your subscription. I'd love to have you back. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can always leave a super thanks on the video, join us on stream and give us a super chat, or consider becoming a member of the channel. As a member of the channel, you get early access to videos such as this. All right, builders, take care and find yourself some good beachfront property, and I will see you on stream. Babble out.